Welcome, everybody. Football Talking News and Jeremy, Warren, Cody, Austin. We're going to start by talking about the big trade that happened yesterday. Matthew Stafford to the Rams for Jared Goff and 2 firsts and a third. Who do you think won the trade? We'll start with Warren.
So I think the Rams won the trade. When Goff is on, he's a very good QB, but he's been very inconsistent over the last couple of years. I think Stafford has been kind of handicapped by the system in Detroit and the fact that Detroit has just never really been a competitive team. So I think that going to the Rams with that defense, they've still got Jalen Ramsey, they've still got Aaron Donald, they got Cooper Kupp on offense. They've got plenty of weapons around him. I think that team is going to be much better with Stafford and definitely a contender for the division title and a contender to make a deep playoff push, bearing injuries and things like that.
Fair enough. What about the picks? Do you think they gave up too much or?
I think part of it was taken on the contract. Value straight up, it wasn't quite worth it, but they also had to eat a big chunk of contract from Goff. So kind of that was a component of that trade where that the picks partially were compensation for the massive chunk of salary that got eaten up.
Fair enough. So Dan Campbell today said that he talked to Goff, and Goff is going to be the starter there. And Goff says he's excited. The Lions seem to really want him. Realistically, Cody, how well do you think he does there this season?
Are they going to help him? Because Kenny Galladay is a free agent. So instantly you don't know if your best wide receiver is there. Granted, he didn't play much this year, but what are they going to do to support him offensively, both offensively and defensively? Because he's going to need the weapons to move the ball. And the defense obviously also has to stop somebody because they're not very good at that. I think he can put up similar numbers maybe to what he did in LA. It's just he's not the carry the team on your back kind of quarterback. If he can run the ball and take the short game, take the West Coast game, I think he's much more efficient than what he has to do when he has to be the guy.
The problem in Detroit is in Matt Stafford's career, they had 1,400-yard rushing games. The problem in Detroit is that they can't run the ball, so I don't think he's going to get much help from the running game.
Yeah, that's a big issue too, and they got to find him a number one receiver if Galladay leaves. They also have to get a running back and actually hit on a running back at some point somewhere, whether it be free agency or the draft. But the fact that in 12 years they only have 1,400-yard games is not going to cut it in the NFL. You're not going to win a lot of games that way.
So it's a target for wide receiver one in this year's free agency draft. What are some targets, some people that they can look for that would help that team?
If they look inside the division, you got Allen Robinson as a free agent out of Chicago. He's arguably the best free agent receiver coming out. Like Cody was saying, if they can re-sign Galladay, that's huge. But if he leaves and goes someplace else, T.Y. Hilton's a free agent. Will Fuller's a free agent. Corey Davis out of Tennessee. There's some targets out there that can come in, but like Cody said, if Galladay leaves and they don't get him somebody,
right,
it's going to be a long season. They don't have the defense to hang with people, so they're not going to be relying on the D to win them games.
Right.
I think if they're Jared Goff performed the best when they had Todd Gurley and the RPO action system that Sean McVay ran the year they went to the Super Bowl. If they're trying to get somebody to help with the run game, Chris Godwin was the second highest rated run blocking wide receiver, and he's just a wide receiver one by himself.
And he's a free agent, right?
Yep. So assuming he leaves Tampa Bay, him going to the Lions would make a lot of sense. He'll eat the double teams, and if they can re-sign Kenny Galladay, then you have two theoretical number one receivers. Chris Godwin can block.
That's a good one. So, Cody, does this change what they do at 7 now that they got Goff in return and they plan to start him? Does that change 7 for you? What do they do with that pick now?
I think it does because now they can go either one of those top 3 receivers are going to be there. Either Smith, Waddle, or Chase will be there. good chance Rashawn Slater's there, or Pensy Sewell, depending on who goes first out of those two. Right now, it looks like Pensy Sewell will, but we've all seen how the draft works, and some guys free fall.
Right.
They could also go defense too, because this trade basically gives them a bridge quarterback for at least 2 years, so they can take a guy later that they think they can develop too, and then move on from Goff after a couple years if they think he's the guy.
What's the
And
name
it
of
also-
the later round sack quarterback they can develop?
Yeah.
So give me a name though. Somebody.
Oh, someone they can develop?
Yeah.
So you're looking later in the draft. I mean, Ian Book is a guy that probably won't go in the first round, but I think he's a guy that has potential there to develop. He has really good pocket awareness. His footwork's great. A lot of his problems come with arm strength more than anything. So, I mean, if you're going to play, like, I assume with Dan Campbell coming in from the Sean Payton tree, they're going to play the West Coast game where you hit him short, take him over the top. And I think he'd be a good fit scheme-wise there.
Fair enough. So to stay on the quarterback topic, we had a talk, and you said 18 quarterbacks you think might change teams. So I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper to that because we've seen 2. Give me some scenarios where you see 16 other quarterbacks changing. Some quarterbacks you think will change that we might not think about.
Are you asking Cody or just all of us?
Anybody.
I think Matt Ryan ends up getting traded with them having the 4th pick. Like, probably not for much, but I think if the Colts can't find any, Matt Ryan is suitable. He's always top 5 in passing yards. Like, if they get a 2nd for him or a 3rd when they're rebuilding, I don't think he really meshes with Arthur Smith, the new head coach, because some of Matt Ryan's really good when you have a good running game, but like when Matt Ryan has been the best is when Julio Jones was healthy or Calvin Ridley, and he's just can air it out on every play, and then the run game can get 2-3 yards on 3rd down. So
Right.
I feel like with the Colts, if they can sign a good free agent, they have Jonathan Taylor who can get the 2 or 3 yards, and say Matt Ryan's getting up there in age, they keep him for 2 or 3 years. Eventually, when his arm strength isn't the best, he goes there. So that's one trade. I think Alex Smith just retires. Like I think he did what he wanted to prove, that he could come back, that he was a good quarterback. Like he played well.
So
And-
let's go through the teams, and we'll see if we think their quarterback's going to change. This is an easier way to do it, I guess.
So
So we can start with Buffalo. I know they're going to stay. They're going to stay with Josh Allen. Miami, you think they stay with Tua, Warren?
I think the only way Tua is not the opening day starter is if they are able to make a trade for Watson. So it's one of 2. It's either Watson or Tua. There's nobody else that's going to come in. Obviously, bearing some sort of like freak injury, it's either Watson or Tua.
Okay. So Cody, what about the Patriots, and what are somebody they can target?
I wanted to go after Warren for a minute.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You can talk about the Dolphins. Go ahead.
So, if Zach Wilson somehow falls past the Jets, do you think the Dolphins? I mean, Mike Flores is also. Yeah, I knew what I said. I was just hoping no one caught it. He's already shown a lack of commitment, maybe, to Tua by pulling him out of 2 games. So, if Zach Wilson falls, does he think about that? Or if
I don't think so. I think if they have the 3rd pick, which if they trade for Watson, the 3rd pick is gone. It's in Houston. So assuming that they're drafting 3rd, it means Tua is the guy. I think they're taking Smith. There's the rapport. He won the Heisman. You've got, the laundry list of reasons why he's already being linked. I don't need to go into what every article out there is saying about Alabama and, linking him to Miami. I think that it's either Sewell or Smith. I think those are the only 2 picks that go 3rd to Miami.
Slater. I think they'll go Slater. The Miami is they got pushed out of the playoffs with a 10-win team. Penny Sewell has the highest ceiling, but Slater coming out of college is the best prospect. Like we're so used to hearing about Penny Sewell because he didn't play this year. So we don't have the recency bias of like, we didn't see him let up 2 sacks or whatever. And he has the highest ceiling because he's just a freak athlete. But I think coming out of college with the film I've watched, Sean Slater's just a beast.
Also on Slater, Slater's the most versatile lineman in the draft. He can play guard or tackle. I mean,
And
he can slide in and fill a
he
need.
manhandled Chase Young. He manhandled Chase Young. Like Chase Young did not get a sack. I think he got one pressure in that game, and we saw what
Right.
Chase Young did to great offensive lines this year. He ate them.
Okay.
So,
So what
I
about the Patriots? Some targets. One, does Cam come back? And if not, what are some targets for the Patriots this year?
I don't think the
Cam's gone, I think.
Yeah, I don't see Cam coming back.
yeah, Cam's not coming back, and also just how Bill Belichick is. I used to be a Pats fan, as most of you know from watching it.
Mhm.
I think Bill Belichick cares more about his defense than he ever has his offense, and we've seen that every year.
I have a quick question about a trade prospect. What about Jimmy Garoppolo coming back to New England post Tom Brady to start? Do you think Bill Belichick would make that move?
I don't see why Garoppolo would want to come back.
I mean, well, the 49ers obviously don't want him.
I know, but like, I think Garoppolo would get interest from other teams that aren't going to be as strict on him as Belichick was. Because as strict Belichick was on Brady, Kraft was worse to Garoppolo because Brady was his guy.
Right.
And
I remember.
Belichick has a record for being a dick to backup quarterbacks and his quarterbacks, just people on the offense he's been dicks to.
So what
So
is somebody that they would target in your opinion?
I don't think they'd go out for anybody. I think they'll actually. I don't know what they saw in Jarrett Stidham. Maybe they
I
don't.
think
see
Stidham will
anything.
start day one. That's kind of, I'm thinking that.
He looks
Like,
terrible.
That's my thoughts.
oh, I'm not saying he's great, but I think that's going to be their guy. I don't think Newton's back. I think they're going to go with Stidham. They might draft somebody and try to develop him, but I think
What say you, Cody? What do you think?
You
I
can't
could
really-
see him making the move for Garoppolo. Belichick liked Garoppolo. He wanted to start Garoppolo over Brady.
But he didn't like Garoppolo. So here's the thing that everyone thought Belichick liked Garoppolo. Belichick's own words was, Brady is too old. We need to find somebody to start right now. They traded away Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett was the person that Belichick wanted with Belichick's own words, but they knew they would get as much. He didn't think they'd get as much for Garoppolo as they did for Brissett. Turns out they got the same, or Garoppolo was a little bit more. I don't remember.
They got
what
more
got
for
Brissett.
Garoppolo. I think they got more.
yeah,
don't
no,
know.
Garoppolo was a second rounder. It was a giveaway. It was because Kraft told them trade him. They basically gave him away to San Fran.
So go ahead.
Also, Jacoby Brissett is also a free agent, so Belichick does have that option to get him back in there.
I think they need a quarterback who can run. Like the offense isn't doing anything when you have your best person on the outside, Jacoby Myers, I think his name is,
I was gonna say-
quarterback.
I was
Like-
going to say that to lure a quarterback, they have to get wide receivers.
Yeah, you can't develop a quarterback with nobody to throw to.
And Belichick's been horrible at targeting receivers.
Yes, he
Belichick-
has.
Absolutely
Belichick is the best coach to ever exist, but probably the worst general manager after Bill O'Brien.
Right. So let's move on to the other AFC East team, the last one. If the Jets don't land Watson, right? Say they don't get Watson, do they stick with Darnold or do they bring in somebody else?
That one might be one of the harder harder decisions to figure out, because you can make a case for Darno because Gase is just a horrible coach. So,
What about drafting Wilson?
but they could draft Wilson. They could go with Darno. They could trade for Watson. Like, there's so many different possibilities.
Well, yeah, in this scenario,
I don't know if
trade for
Watson goes
Watson's
to the
out,
Jets.
say Watson's gone, out of the picture. Do they keep Darnold or do they bring in somebody else? What do you think, Cody?
I think they bring in competition, whether it be through the draft or through free agency. But maybe Darnold just needs to be pushed, because we all have seen what he is capable of doing when he is on. The problem is he hasn't always been on.
But you don't think that they give him a chance under the new regime, like to grab the job or keep the job? You know, I mean, Adam Gase.
Right, that's what I said.
Because I heard this today, and this made a lot of sense to me. People look at the Tannehill effect, is what they called it in the media today. Tannehill was in Miami with Gase, right? Tannehill left, went to Tennessee. I mean, he's flourishing. He's playing really well. Do you think that Darnold has the same potential to be well without Gase?
If it was just Tannehill, I'd say it was a one-up, but we also saw it with Devontae Parker. We saw it with Minka Fitzpatrick. Like, we see it with every player who leaves Gase's system. Like, we talked about it. It's run up the middle, run up the middle, run up the middle, punt. Defense is cover two, cover two, cover two. Oh, shit, they scored a touchdown. Like,
Right.
No, I think they give him a chance. That's why I went the competition route. Because
Okay. So let's go.
if it doesn't
North.
work out, you're picking in the top 5 again anyway.
That's right. And you can get another quarterback next year.
they're used to it.
It's going to be a competitive division. You're going to have the Bills and the Dolphins, most likely both over 10 wins again. So
when we look at the AFC North, I know Baltimore's going to stay put at quarterback. Cincinnati's going to stay put at Burrow. Cleveland will probably stay put. I don't know. I know we talked about them going in a different direction before, but they'll probably stay with Mayfield. And Pittsburgh will probably stay with Ben Roethlisberger if he takes a cut. If he restructures. Pittsburgh also brought in Haskins to develop, so we'll see how that works. So
yeah,
do you think
I don't see.
any team in the North going a different direction or no?
I don't think so. I don't think that Cleveland could. I don't think the upgrade would be worth what they'd have to give up to get Watson, and that would be the only real change I could see would be a trade for Watson. And yes, Watson is better than Baker, no argument there. But I don't think that they have enough to give up to get that much better.
Yeah, it costs too much. What do you think?
That's it. Like the cost for the margin of improvement to me isn't
Right.
there.
With Watson, I got you.
See,
what do you think?
I like the Watson there, but we were talking about 3-team trades the other day for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Then I came so what if Minnesota wants to go after Watson and Cleveland jumps in on that? So Watson goes to Minnesota, Cousins to Cleveland, Baker to Houston, and then the exchange of picks after that point.
It's interesting,
Because
but is Cousins enough of an upgrade to make it worth it for Cleveland to move?
probably not, but they might get some of the picks out of that deal from the way I was looking at. But I mean, I don't think they're completely sold on Baker. Is the point?
I agree there. I do agree there.
Yeah, you can look at the way John Harbaugh said they're going to re-sign Lamar to how the Browns GM was like, maybe.
And I'm not a huge Baker fan, but I look at his stats when OBJ was out, and OBJ has notoriously been problematic in terms of distractions on the sideline. Not like an AB type distraction, but he demands a certain share of the load and targets and whatnot. And Baker's numbers without OBJ are pretty good. I mean, I think that honestly, they'd be better. They'd be better if they traded OBJ than if they went and traded the farm to bring in like a Watson.
I can agree with that, but I think that they have to find a way to make it work with Odell.
Well,
Odell is too good of a player when he is on. I think it's a mental thing with Baker. I think he needs to stop trying to force the ball. But
I feel like all of Baker's problems are mental things. Like, he went out and had his little like Twitter freak out because some person who follows the Cleveland Browns wanted them to trade for Deshaun Watson. Like, everyone wants their team to trade for Deshaun Watson if they don't have the quarterback position 100% filled out. Like,
right.
and
I
he's
think-
the only quarterback who went out and addressed it. He's
Yeah, I
the
think
only
you're
one
right.
who posted, some of you Browns fans aren't real Browns fans. Like, that doesn't scream franchise guy.
What do you think, Cody? I know you wanted to say something.
Look, the thing with Baker is he can throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half. In the second half, come out and get sacked 20 times, fumble 3 times, and throw 4 interceptions.
You're not wrong. So, consensus is, though, I don't think anybody in the AFC North moves, quarterback-wise. Outside of a 3-team trade, do you guys think anybody moves?
No.
No.
No. So let's go to the South. We know, well, we're pretty sure Houston's going to have a quarterback change. So say that they trade Watson. They don't get a quarterback in return. One, who wants to go to Cleveland who wants to go to Houston to be a quarterback? And realistically, Do they have to draft somebody, or can they get a free agent to come?
They probably have to address it in the draft, which is why I think you're most likely, like, not in terms of fit, but in terms of most likely, I think you're most likely to see either the Jets or the Dolphins make the trade because they get the 2 or the 3. So they're guaranteed to get a QB if they get one of those picks. I don't know if there's a free agent QB that's like, yeah, I'm going to go to a team with potentially Will Fuller, their number 1, leaving. Nobody on defense, Watts leaving. Nobody on offense, new coach. Nobody wants to go there. Their players of past are saying, please leave. We're terrible or awful. I mean,
Right.
there's literally no incentive to go to that franchise right now. So I think you have to get drafted and stuck there.
Fair enough.
to be
Cody,
there.
any free agents you can think of?
With the way this is working out right now, I think they're killing like free agents to want to go there. Your PR is really bad right now, so you got players looking, well, maybe I don't really want to go there. They can offer me more, but the culture there doesn't seem to be, a high priority.
Their only real selling point is the tax break.
Right? Hey, no state income taxes. Come on over.
That's why Miami's on Watson's list, because there's also no income tax.
So, ideally, then, if they trade Watson, they should get a quarterback in return, right? If they want.
That's kind of my thinking, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my thinking on it, is that they need that quarterback in return. But depending on who they trade him to, then maybe you can flip that draft pick on it. But also on that note is I think one way or the other they're going to have a new quarterback at least for half the season.
Right. So another team, we also know the Colts are going to have a new quarterback. No Rivers. They're not going to re-sign him. So who comes to Indianapolis?
Well, I don't think it's Jacoby Brissett because we just paid you, but you're going to sit on the bench because we got Phillip Rivers right now. So
right.
I think he's out of the equation. I've kind of been thinking about this, and the Bears need to unload one of their quarterbacks. They either need to get Foles out of there or Trubisky out of there. So
I think.
Well, they're not picking up Trubisky's 5th-year option, right?
He's a free agent. Yeah, he's a
Is
free
he?
agent.
I mean,
Okay,
he had enough flashes of brilliance that I could see him going there, and with that defense, and you've got Jonathan Taylor at running back, like
and
he
look,
could
that
have
offense,
success. I'm not saying they're going to be like a deep playoff team, but I could see them being successful. I could see him winning the same number of games.
that offensive line is like 100 times better than what Chicago's is. Chicago's offensive line is terrible.
Which is true too. A good offensive line can make even a mediocre QB look great.
What about like a veteran like Matt Ryan, for instance?
What's their cap space?
They're under.
second highest.
They've got one of the highest cap spaces.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they could go and get him salary wise. They could. I mean, Matt Ryan is a guy that, all of the issues with Atlanta have been the defense crumbling and giving up leads. It's not that Ryan couldn't put points on the board. Defense couldn't hold a lead. So you give him that kind of defense and that kind of run game, that could make the AFC South a scary division for the rest of the teams in it.
I like it, but they really need to address the receiver position too, no matter who goes there. And that's kind of my thought. What I've been thinking about as I was thinking about quarterback for the Colts, who's going to go there, is who are they throwing it to?
Well, I hear they're going to trade Julio. Maybe Julio will come with them.
Julio's going to be there for 4 whole games.
Hey, he might play 5.5.
Depends if they make the playoffs.
So, again, we know Jacksonville is most likely going to draft Lawrence. Do you think there's a way they draft somebody else or go a different direction? Or
I think they legitimately could draft Zach Wilson.
Urban Meyer came out and said they were going to draft Lawrence. I mean,
he also said he was looking at other options too. So
he also said he couldn't work another coaching job because he was sick. So.
So
I think most likely Lawrence ends up there.
So Lawrence or Wilson, that's fair. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. What's Darrell Bevel's offensive scheme?
I don't know. I don't remember where he worked last.
Lions. He was with the Lions last season.
Okay.
With the Lions for a while. He likes to take shots. And I
Yeah,
think
the
that's
Lions might
Trevor.
be big shops. Yeah.
And I think that's Trevor Lawrence's weak spot. I think that's what I really do not like about him. I pointed it out a couple times to you guys. I just think that'd be a terrible fit. And Zach Wilson's your deep ball thrower in that.
Zach Wilson
So, I
reminds
mean,
me a
unless
lot of
Darrell
Josh Allen. He's a little bit more polished than Josh Allen coming out, but with his arm strength and his mobility and his athleticism, he reminds me a lot of Josh Allen.
and like
Zach
I
Wilson.
think he would fit. I think he
It's
would
true.
fit Darrell
And
Bevell's
Jacksonville
system
could
better.
be kind of doing a little bit of what Miami did last year, where Miami kind of let everybody coming up into the draft talk about they're trading up for Burrow. They're going to trade or they're going to draft Herbert and kind of let everybody speculate what they were going to do. And I think they had Tua pegged all along.
I
So
actually
maybe
heard,
Jacksonville's going to let everybody assume it's Lawrence and then make a shift maybe.
yeah, well, I heard actually there was a big debate in Miami about Herbert or Tua, and owner wanted Tua. So, but it happened a couple years ago. Remember, everybody thought Cleveland was going to take Darnold. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They took Baker instead. I mean, it could be that they take somebody else, but I think it'll still be Lawrence. But
I just really feel fit wise that Zach Wilson's their best option, just because of that deep ball thing. And Darrell Bevel likes to throw the deep ball and pointed it out where Trevor Lawrence has a tendency to lock onto one receiver, and if he's triple covered or wide open,
Right.
he's throwing it there regardless.
right,
I just
need some work. Go ahead.
I feel like Gardner Minshew is like a good enough quarterback, and like drafting a quarterback isn't gonna solve their problems. And I'm like one of the few people in the world who are like, you're gonna draft a franchise quarterback and they're gonna die.
Well, Jacksonville has the luxury too, though, of having 2 first-round picks this year, so they can go do that. They can go get that quarterback, and they can address something else later in the draft.
So after that, it's Tennessee. I think Tannehill's going to stay there.
Yeah, Tannehill's not going anywhere yet.
$100 million.
They extended him. Let's go to the AFC West.
I
Denver.
think the Chiefs are set.
I think the Chiefs are trading Mahomes.
The Chiefs are set.
If they want to trade Mahomes to Miami, we'll take him. I mean, if they don't want him, like we'll take Patrick Mahomes.
So this is
I mean,
interesting because the Chargers are set. So the Chiefs and the Chargers are set. They're not going to make any moves. Denver was in on Stafford. Didn't get Stafford. They're in
I
on
don't think
Watson.
Locke starts under center next year.
Yeah, so they're in on Watson. They're in on any potential trade. Every trade is linked to Denver right now. Who ends up there?
So, we were kind of speculating about the Lions wanting to move Goff and getting some more draft capital and still going up and drafting the quarterback. Maybe that's a destination for him if
Maybe.
that route happens, because that would be kind of an under the radar thing of what you guys
Well,
just
and kind of playing off of what Austin had said earlier about the RPO, like you've got Philip Lindsay if he resigns, you got Melvin Gordon, so you got 2 good running backs. So you can use that running game to kind of help set. They've got some young receivers that could flourish into something. I mean, it's not a totally undesirable location for a QB to go to.
And you got Noah Fant there, and as long as he stays healthy, Tim Patrick's a really good guy out of the slot.
I mean, they got young Jerry Jeudy. He's going to have to develop a little bit, but they have him there.
He's flashed enough
They
that he has
they
the
drafted
potential.
KJ Hamler last year, who had a really good end to the season, who I really liked. They got a lot of young receivers there in Denver. The other team that's interesting to me is the Raiders. Now, they got Carr, but Carr hasn't looked good. They've talked about moving on. They've talked about keeping him. Would the Raiders move on from Derek Carr? And if so, who would fit this system?
I think the Raiders' issues aren't like Carr's. And don't get me wrong, I mean, Gruden has had a good coaching career, but I feel like it's coaching. I mean, to be that up and down, it's one thing to have like a bad game. Like Miami this year, they had a really good season. They laid an egg week 17. Like nobody can say like we played awfully. They had a horrible game, but it was like one really awfully bad game. It's not like they were up and down all season.
What I'll say about that is the Bills have the Dolphins number, but let's.
And they do, but like it wasn't like Miami played like good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Like they played relatively consistently well as the team went on, and then they laid the egg.
Yeah.
Where the Raiders are like, you had the same team that beat the Chiefs. The only loss the Chiefs have had this season that really meant anything. And then they almost lost to the Jets on a Hail Mary 50-yard blown coverage. How do you get those two?
The Dolphins. But the Raiders, they're closer than people think. They lost last second to the Dolphins, right? That would have been 8 or 9 wins. They lost last second.
The
Was it like
Fitzmask.
Chargers? I think they lost to the Chargers last second or something like that. I mean, they lost
They
a lot
took
of
the
close
Chiefs,
games at the end.
they took the Chiefs to the brink the second time they played again, and
The problem with the Chiefs game is John Gruden. Like, John Gruden's play calling was trash. He's like, all right, there's a minute left. Let's hand it back to the quarterback who does fucking magic every time he touches the damn ball.
Right.
And then
Oh, that
that
was the
actually
Dolphins
played
game.
into the Dolphins game because
Fitz
he
magic.
had told Josh Jacobs to not score to get down to run the clock out, and then that ended up
Didn't
costing
run
them
the
the
clock
field
out.
goal, which set up the Fitzmagic or the Fitzmask.
Right. Because they would have been up by a whole touchdown had they.
Yeah, then the field goal doesn't help, and then we might get that completion, but now we still got to go in the 40 yards into the end zone. So
Right.
So you guys are forgetting they have a quarterback on their roster that their GM Mike Mayock absolutely loved coming out of the draft.
What about Mariota?
Yeah,
oh, they do have Mariota. I forgot about that.
He played really well the game that Derek Carr
got hurt. Yeah,
Mariota is just not. He's an up and down guy too. We're talking about up and downs. He
Well,
throws.
and it's
He can have a 4 touchdown game and follow it up with a 5 interception game. Like he
And
does that
it's-
all the time.
also like Carr and Mariota are not like they play very differently. So when your defense is prepped all week for Carr and then Mariota pops in, you're just like, all right, guys, what do we do? And then
Right.
now when the defense gets the game plan for you, it's a totally different can of worms. You know, it's
Well-
kind of like, Miami has had some backups over the years where when they got to be prepped for, they were garbage, but when they came in relief, they weren't. The defense wasn't ready for them, and they torched you.
Right.
but going into that though, the GM of the Raiders thought he was the best quarterback ever coming out in that draft
I
class.
remember that. I remember. I listened to Mike May talk about Mariota. He got me pumped up for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, that I'd forgotten all about that. I mean, there could be an open QB competition in the off season like that. That's a possibility. I didn't even
Say
think
the
about
Raiders wanted to bring somebody in that wasn't on their roster. Who fits the system that they run?
I think Cam Newton.
Think
Cam
that
Newton,
would be
like,
good there.
he likes the big tight ends.
Yeah,
He-
but he doesn't really have the big receivers there. There he has the speed guys, and I don't know if he can do that.
No, he needs big receivers. That's what he did in Carolina. Because they always had to go up and get it. Because
I'll give you the tight ends like him and Darren Waller would be great together, but he struggles with the speedy receivers, and that's what Oakland is. You're fast, you're on the team.
What about somebody like Jameis Winston? I know he threw a lot of picks, but he had his eyes repaired. Like
Dude,
he did. He had something.
Did he get his brain
I
repaired?
think Winston's going to be the starter in New Orleans next year.
You think he stays?
I
'Cause he's a
don't.
free
He
agent.
lost his role to a tight end.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think Jameis Winston stays because they gave the job to Taysom Hill when Brees was injured. They
But
didn't
I
even
think
think
he'll prove that he's a great gimmicky gadget guy, but he's not an NFL starting
He
QB
went
that's going to sit there and
Hill didn't play bad though either.
No,
So-
he didn't. He played well. He won those games.
The Bucks had the same exact defense, except they didn't have Antoine Winfield Jr. and they were just fucking. They looked terrible because they were on the field for 45
What-
minutes.
What about a quarterback like Jameis? And I didn't think about this for the Patriots. Like, if they want to replace Cam Newton with somebody who can throw the ball, I mean, Winston's got a cannon. I mean, he had the most picks in NFL history last season, but he also went over 5,000 yards.
hey, it was the new 30 for 30.
He had
No,
30
no,
touchdowns too. To be honest, I mean,
If Winston went to New England, they'd get in a fist fight on the sideline.
yeah, I mean, I know he's.
Winston
What
would
about-
throw-
He's gonna try to eat a W in front of Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick's gonna cut him.
So what about Winston though? Where would he fit? We're gonna talk about the NFC East after in the next video. We'll do the NFC. But what about Winston? Any teams that come to mind when you think of Jameis?
I think he's good as like the backup player, like we saw as the Saints. Like he came in the divisional round and he like threw that touchdown because no one was expecting it because Drew Brees could throw the ball 5
It's a
feet.
beautiful throw though.
Yes, he makes beautiful throws when there's no defenders in sight.
So I have a buddy at work that was a Tampa Bay fan. I used to give him shit about getting his Tampa Bay's receivers, defenders jerseys.
He would throw to whoever was open, no matter the color they were wearing.
So we're thinking nowhere then, right?
No,
Because that's what I'm getting.
Jameis is gonna end up somewhere. I don't like. There's too much talent there for him not to. It's just a lot of it's decision making on his part.
Right. So give me a team that'll take a chance. What do you think?
Washington.
Washington could. They're
Terry McLaurin's a
I can
monster.
see the fit.
you gotta look. You gotta look at the fringe teams. I think with Winston, the
What
teams
about
that
Jameis in like Denver? Would he fit there?
he could. I mean, that might be a problem playing in altitude because he'll throw the ball 90 yards, but.
But I was thinking that's what I was thinking about the Raiders. You mentioned it; they have speed. He could play well there.
Yeah, I was going back and forth on it in my head while we were talking about
He didn't do well with speed guys though. Like with Deshaun Jackson, he did not do well. In Jameis
So
Winston,
Deshaun Jackson played like what 6 games that season. Deshaun Jackson was like hurt, wasn't he?
Deshaun Jackson was the number 1 receiver when he was in Tampa. Mike Evans,
Jameis did really well with Mike Evans though.
Deshaun Jackson, though, has
but
never
Mike
played
Evans-
good anywhere outside of Philadelphia for whatever reason.
Yeah, he wasn't good anywhere but Philly.
I feel like Winston got along with Evans so well because Evans lowers the interception total. You throw the ball 3 feet
Godwin,
catching it.
last year when he had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they both went over 1,000, both of them. I mean,
Yeah,
Like-
you can't deny the talent. He's going to get a chance somewhere. Denver might be a good fit, actually. So the Raiders could too. But I don't think,
his arm strength is there.
like, Derek Carr is not going to turn the ball over as much as Jameis Winston. So I don't know if the Raiders will go that route. But
That's the thing about James that he needs to Kirk. He takes the shots every time.
like Drew Lock, he gets 55% completions this year and stuff. So I mean that makes sense. You're obviously going to upgrade even if you get a couple more interceptions or whatever. You're going to get some touchdowns too, though.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. Like the year he threw 30 picks, he went over 5,000 yards. He had 30 touchdowns too. You know, it's not like
he'd start a game and throw first pass be an interception, then he'd throw 5 touchdowns and lose the game on an interception at the end.
right. I mean, he did do that. I saw a game when he was in Tampa. He had like four touchdowns and 4 picks.
Yeah, that's what he was the entire season, and that's what the problem became. Is like you could have the 85 Bears, but if you're making them stay on the field for 50 minutes, 45 minutes out of the game.
I'm going to say, though, learning under Drew Brees couldn't have hurt his stack.
I really think that he will be better when he gets another chance to start. I agree with you. Sean Payton and Drew Brees helped him, and I think that when he gets a chance to start, he will be better.
So he'll throw 28 picks.
That's an improvement.
That's an improvement over 30. So, all right. So I'm going to exit. I got to pee, and then I'll be right back. We can do the NFC when we come back. All right, cool. So we did the AFC quarterback movement. We're trying to get to 18 still. So we're going to start in the NFC. We're going to start with the East. The Cowboys, Dak, right? We're set on that, right?
Barring some unforeseen thing, yes. If they can't get a deal done and end up trading him, maybe. But I doubt that'll happen. I think they're prepared to play him on the tag again if they have to.
The Eagles, it's impossible for them to trade Carson Wentz. You know, I read something yesterday that if they trade him, they eat $33 million of dead cap this year. They have to wait till next year, at least. So
probably $1 million in turnover they don't have.
But that.
Although, are we counting that a change in starter since Hurts started the last couple of games?
Technically, I guess you're right, but I don't count it anyways because it's still Carson Wentz started there before.
So I think they have to trade Hurts, otherwise there's going to be some dissension in the ranks.
Yeah, we talked about that briefly off camera, but yes, I agree that they have to move Hurts somewhere.
I would like to see Hurts, like Warren talked about, like somewhere else in the NFC, like a contender, or like Denver, because like you kind of know what you're getting with Hurts. You're getting like a game manager who can throw a pretty good ball. We saw that with Alabama and Oklahoma, and like he came in and threw for what 462 yards in the 2 games he played.
Something like it was somewhere like
Something
that.
like that, yeah.
Saints against the
I'd like-
Saints and the Cardinals.
I'd like to see him move to Washington and beat Philadelphia twice a year just because.
They won't trade him to Washington.
I'd love to see that. Him throwing to Terry McLaurin, that'd be great.
I'd love to see it, but I don't think they'll trade him in the inside the division.
I don't think so either. The Giants. So I was talking about this. I don't think they move on from Daniel Jones this year, but I don't think they're as sold out of him as people think. I think that they could move on from him, and I wouldn't be surprised. What do you think?
I think this is going to be his make it or break it year. So, you know, he this was his second year coming in, but this was his first year with Judge. So I think Judge gives him one more year to kind of clean up the turnovers, get a little smarter with the football, and prove he can do it. He's got the arm talent. He can run. I mean, he had a run this year faster than Jackson had, minus the whole fact that he can't run without stumbling over his own feet, you know, and create highlight reels. He had his own Buffalo Wild Wings commercial when he tripped over his own feet. The sprinkler popped up.
That's my favorite
but
moment.
I think this year he's got to prove it. If he can show he can do it, then maybe he stays. But if he doesn't do it this year, I think he's gone. But I think he'll start this year.
Austin, Cody, what do you guys think?
You know, I think a lot of that goes to like the offensive line of the Giants was really horrible at the beginning of the year. They played a little better towards the end of the year, and they started actually clicking and winning some games. I mean, I think he has the talent to do it, but in the same note, they pick what?
11.
11.
So, say one of those high quarterbacks fall down the draft boards, I could also see him going that route.
That's what I said. I think Daniel Jones will start, but I won't be surprised if he doesn't. Now, we know Washington is moving. So, give me some candidates, some people that would fit well there in Washington. Run that Ron Rivera type offense.
Oh,
Newton.
I was going to say, any chance Newton reunites?
do they have big receivers? I thought Terry McLaurin was undersized, just fast.
He is. They also have Cam Sims. They have
They have that tight end Thomas something. He broke
Logan
out.
Thomas.
Logan Thomas.
He used to play for the Bills.
The problem is like Washington doesn't have a lot of offensive weapons at all.
What about Antonio Gibson? I mean, they have pieces.
They have pieces, they just don't have. Gibson flashed,
McLaurin flashed.
McLaurin flashed, but outside of those two, no one really did.
Logan Thomas had big games down the stretch for them.
He did, but I don't even know if he comes back this year. So
Maybe not. So who fits? So I heard Cam. Any other names? Quarterbacks fit this system?
I'd really like to see him give that Heineke a try.
I don't think they will because of some of Heineke's off-season stuff and some of the shit he does outside of it with the amount of stigma Washington already has. Like Heineke goes out and there was a report he called Chase Young the N-word in the locker room. There's all of his Twitter feed is very anti black people, anti-minorities.
Yeah,
and Washington has already been known for that. So
right. They're also really close to the Capitol, and he's a huge Trump supporter, and he supported the attack on the Capitol building and all that good stuff. Not to get into that too much, but I think that hurts him being in
What
Washington.
about Garoppolo? He's kind of a game manager, but I could see him fitting like a Ron Rivera, like the mindset Rivera wants in his team.
He reminds me of Alex Smith, so
That's what I was just going to
he
say.
would fit.
I was just going to say he's like a poor man's Alex Smith, but
he's also younger too, so you kind of get that same kind of mentality.
When Alex Smith was Jimmy Garoppolo's age, he was a poor man's Alex Smith. So,
well, I don't know. I still like the Super Bowl a couple years back where they did the close up on his face and he just closed his eyes and chucked it up there. It was one of the first interception that ended up leading to the Chiefs' comeback.
Washington was in on Stafford though, so would they go for another veteran like Matt Ryan or somebody around that age or that's been around for a while? Maybe Phillip Rivers. I don't know. Phil says he wants to come back for a year.
I thought he just retired.
I thought he said he wanted to come back. I didn't see that he retired.
Yeah,
Phillip
he announced
Rivers?
he was
He retired.
retiring. Philip Rivers?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had that whole thing about
Yeah,
how
the
you're
press
ready to
conference.
call it. And
And he
Oh, he
cried.
did?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
sobbed to the media.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed that. So, there goes that. But all right. So there's one. So Washington will move. Now with the NFC North, Chicago's moving. They were in on Stafford talks. They were in on Watson talks. I mean, they're looking for a trade partner. They want to get a better quarterback. Realistically, outside of Watson, who we can put on the list for everybody, what other quarterback would fit with that offense, minus Allen Robinson, because he's not coming back?
He's a wide receiver too.
Zap?
I was just thinking out loud a little bit.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah, it's gotta be
Bears should kind of go. I think the
Got-
Bears should go full rebuild. Honestly, I don't see a way they can compete in division with Aaron Rodgers. Like
Right.
they've gone
They-
13-3. Matt LaFleur was a good play caller. The defense was clicking towards the end of the season. The offense already has they have good running backs. Devontae Adams a beast, and Khalil Mack's getting old, so trade him while he still has value. Trade the people you're gonna have to pay high contracts to. Trade them, sell, fire sale everybody, and just actually
Do what
rebuild.
Miami did last year. You fire sell those expensive contracts where guys aren't going to live up to what the salary is. You accumulate draft capital and you start a rebuild.
I have to disagree on the rebuild because we're talking about a playoff team. Like, they made the playoffs. We're not talking about a team that was so far away that they have no chance. I mean, we're talking about a playoff team and a defense that played extremely well. It was the top 10 defense. I
Realistically,
don't think they're that far off. I think they need a better quarterback.
regardless of who
But they're
the
going to need a
quarterback
new
is
number
there,
one.
they're going to need an offensive line that doesn't look like it's on rollerblades.
Okay.
They'll need offensive
They do
line,
it.
quarterback, wide receiver. They
They
need
do.
offense.
They do have a really underrated running back in my opinion. Value
Okay.
on David Montgomery. I think they fixed the offensive line though. It would be nice to you could put almost anybody there, but if they don't, Jacoby Brissett's an interesting name to go there because he can move, he can escape the pocket, he can kind of extend those plays a little bit better than what say a Matt Stafford would have been able to, or
There's a lot of receivers available. What about like a Kenny Galladay? I mean, they could get Kenny Galladay and then a quarterback would be better. I mean,
right?
they're not so far away that I think they have to fire sale and rebuild. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I get what you're trying to say. I'm just thinking, quarterback wise, I think Jacoby Brissett would give you some movable options where you can work at that line, and then he can get outside the pocket and throw the ball too.
Right.
But
I don't
I
think he's number one, but I do like Anthony Miller. I think he's a good receiver. They have Cole Kmet, who's a young tight end who's really good. He played well down the stretch last year. They have a good running back. I like David Montgomery. He got hurt. He'll be back next year.
is it Darnell Mooney that's there?
What's that?
Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah,
think they
that's
have-
what I was thinking.
They're like two pieces away. Like you said, they need an offensive line. They need a receiver one and a quarterback, and then that's it. I mean, then they're competitors. I wouldn't fire sale that defense. That defense.
They need a secondary. Their secondary was not very good. Their secondary got pushed up because when you have Khalil Mack in, what's his name? The 98.
Robert Quinn.
Keep Hicks.
Yeah, when you have Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn pushing down your quarterback's throat, they're going to make everybody look good.
Well,
But the
that's-
games where
that's why
Khalil
they-
Mack
that-
played against a good O-line,
They don't need to
their
focus.
secondary got gashed.
But they have good linebackers. They have Roquan Smith. They have Danny Trevathan, who I like. I mean, they've got a lot of pieces.
They built that defense how I like to build them. Build it with the front seven and pressure, because if you can get the pressure, it makes bad secondary look good. If you can't get pressure, it makes a good secondary look bad.
I agree with you 100% on that. That's what happened when we talked about the Bills and the Chiefs. That's what happened to the Bills secondary. They're a good secondary. They would look like trash because we were getting so I would agree that that's a accurate statement. So next is the Lions. We already know that they made the move. Jared Goff for now seems like he's going to be the quarterback. Dan Campbell said that he's going to go with Goff.
Well, the trade isn't official yet, so he's not going to back out on that yet.
Well, I know. Do you think when the trade becomes official, they move Goff again, or do you think they open the season with Goff?
I could see Goff being the new Josh Rosen.
You think so? They need other pieces. So I would keep Goff so they can focus on the other parts of the offense and defense that they need.
Well, the thing that hurt Detroit was the only thing they got this year out of that was a third round pick. I mean, so I could see them moving him again and try to get more capital up front.
But they need so without Galladay, they need another receiver. Their offensive line wasn't great. Defensive line wasn't great. Their whole defense wasn't great.
Matt Patricia ruined that team.
And the problem is trying to move Goff is going to involve moving that salary. Like, that's the hardest part.
We're talking about a team in full rebuild. This is a team that needs to rebuild.
Yeah.
They've been rebuilding for 40 years.
Well, Cleveland finally hit it.
Well, yeah, they got it right. Buffalo rebuilt for 20 years. They finally got it. Cleveland rebuilt for 20 years. They got it finally. I mean, Detroit was in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Here's Matt Stafford's underrated for that value because that was not a playoff team.
No.
None of those teams that he went to the playoffs 2 or 3 times. None of those teams were very good.
Yeah, the last time they were in the playoffs was when Calvin Johnson's last year, right? They literally went off the back of Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford.
They played the Cowboys, right? Was that the Cowboys game?
Yeah.
Tony Romo's playoff win.
It's just like we all know how good Calvin Johnson is, and the Detroit Lions ruined him. They ruined Barry Sanders. They
ruined everybody.
They
finally
ruined
got their
everybody, and they've been rebuilding since I don't even know his name. The guy who put a curse on the fucking Lions. I don't know his name.
I don't remember his name.
He said the Lions would never win an NFL championship without him, and they haven't. They haven't come close.
That's
So
They came close a couple times. They just haven't got there.
yeah, they made the playoffs a couple times. It's just right. They just haven't gotten there yet.
I was
making
thinking
the
like
playoffs isn't coming close though.
no,
Like,
before I
making
can
the
remember
They won a playoff game maybe once.
Barry
They haven't
Sanders.
won a playoff game in the Matthew Stafford era.
No, they haven't won a playoff game since Barry was there.
Yeah.
I think Barry was there. So Green Bay, they're not moving. They've got Pat Rogers.
You don't see a huge Jordan Love swing this offseason?
No, this is an interesting one. We talked about this briefly. Kirk Cousins in Minnesota moving. I mean, I've heard that they're not in love with him. I heard that could be a possibility.
I think they stay with him. I think he played well enough down the stretch, and he's still got Thielen. He's still got Justin Jefferson. He's still got Delvin Cook. He's got pieces there. They were really playing well towards the end of the season offensively. I think that they have some massive holes on defense, but I think that, you can try to move him, but what's it going to take to make a considerable upgrade? Is he one of the best QBs in the league? No. But I don't know if they're going to be able to make the move similarly to some of the other guys we talked about where it's going to be worth it to make the jump.
I think that the Vikings have other holes. That defense is bad. The secondary is bad. They need pieces on the defensive line. They need, like you said, both corners. They need
And
upgrades
that's it.
in other
And
places.
you can't make all those adjustments and trade the farm to move up to like a Watson.
I think that they have enough there to get better at the quarterback position, like you said. I don't think that there's enough of an upgrade available.
It also depends on how they view it too, because if they view it as, hey, we're going to rebuild for a year or two while the Packers run the division until Rodgers is gone, then you make the moves. You move some of your bigger offensive pieces that are older, I guess. I'm not saying like a Jefferson or a Cook, but I could see them moving Thielen and Cousins if they want to go fix the defense first, and then the next season they can fix the offense.
That
I've heard
defense-
Harrison Smith is on the trade block.
Who is?
Harrison Smith.
Yeah, I was going to say, that defense is the problem. Like, that defense is playing so
I
bad.
think another part of the problem is Mike Zimmer. I feel like just watching some of his game calling, just the games past him.
How old is Cook?
24, 25, something like that.
He's 2018 draft, I believe.
Yeah, he's going into his third.
25.
Oh, is that young? Okay, I thought he'd been around a couple
25.
years more than that.
25. Yeah.
No, he's still on his rookie deal. So
Oh, okay, never mind. I was gonna say if he was getting close to 30, I was gonna say
No, you can't
if
move
he
on.
waits a couple of years, is he gonna kind of start to shut his own window?
The offense isn't the problem. If I'm Minnesota, I'm drafting and focusing on that defense this offseason. They can be a
should take
contender
quick
for the very
Yeah, they can score with just about anybody in the league.
They just can't. They can't
Sometimes.
stop anybody.
I think
it
Quiddy
depends on the Cousins that shows up too, because Cousins, if he can keep calm, he's really good. But sometimes he gets too jacked up and throws 10 interceptions and 10 straight passes. So
I've seen both Cousins.
But I feel like he was better over the last like 4 or 5 games. I thought he played pretty well.
To me, he's not. He's like in the middle of the pack, about around 15 for me.
Well,
Right
he's-
in my
like-
system.
to me, him and Ryan Tannehill are very similar. Like if you can shut down the run game, you shut down Cousins too.
That like he's like an Alex Smith, Ryan Tannehill type. He's a game manager. I don't think he's gonna beat you by throwing for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, but normally he doesn't make a ton of mistakes that'll lose you the game either. That defense just couldn't stop anybody this year.
I seem like playing him twice a year early on. Not so much now that he's in Minnesota, but he made at least 3 or 4 interceptions at the goal line. I can remember where he could have beat Dallas, and they ended up losing on
He was
interception.
young though then. I mean, he's a little bit better off now.
You like that?
I don't see it. I just don't see enough of the value to move on from him. Like, I just don't see value in it right now. Unless they think they can get a first for him and they can move up and down the draft board. I don't know.
Well, again, like the Colts might want to make that push too, so maybe the Colts do swing a first for him. I mean,
I
Washington.
mean,
21st overall.
He'd be good
roughly, maybe.
for the Colts. He's not going back to Washington. He hates Dan Snyder, the owner. So Kirk Cousins isn't going back to
Oh
Washington.
yeah,
The
Which was
Colts,
kind of along the lines of when there was trade rumors talking about Dallas trying to trade for Aaron Rodgers, and I just thought that was laughable because you're going to go and reunite him with the coach he got fired. Like, how is that going to play out?
but it's not the coach. It's just the owner for Kirk Cousins. He doesn't like the owner in Washington.
No, but there's still like that connection to that bad blood between previous.
It makes sense for Indy to want Cousins. That's a good fit, but what would the Vikings get in return? Who would they have play quarterback for?
Trade him Brissett, maybe.
Brissett's a free agent.
Or Brissett's a free agent. You sign and trade, or
Who?
sign and trade him.
Oh, Cody said something. What was here?
Nate Stanley, wasn't that their 7th round pick last year? Was their backup?
Something like that. But I mean, they would have to bring somebody in. I mean, you're not going to start that kid.
Trade them Jacob Eason. Jacob Eason had a lot of talent coming out of the draft.
Oh,
He's got great arm strength. He's very smart.
Was he from Washington, right?
I got it. Gardner Minshew.
Minshew Mania returns.
Maybe.
Minshew's a really good quarterback. Just like he's not a
He's not a rookie
franchise
deal, though.
guy.
And they're not going to move on from Minshew. They're going to cut the other guy that they had there. Gabbard?
Yeah, but
Or whoever.
Do they call Philly and try to
it
make a
was,
trade for Hurts?
Jake Luton.
Yeah, Jake Luton. They're going to
Mike Glennon too.
Yeah, Mike Glennon. That's right. That's what I'm thinking. Mike Glennon. They're going to cut Mike Glennon.
But, does Minshew want to stay in Jacksonville after, we're going to put you on the bench so we can make sure we
No,
draft your
rookie deal.
replacement?
They're not going to trade him. I mean, he's still on his rookie deal. Minshew's on his rookie deal still. So
Does Minnesota call Philly and try to get Hurts?
possibly, but I mean, unless like Cody said, unless they're going full rebuild, I don't see them moving on from Cousins. Unless they want to rebuild completely. Possible. That defense just needs a lot of work there. I'd focus there if I was Minnesota.
If Indy calls and says, I'll give you a first and a third this year and a third next year, I think they probably take that.
I mean, for Cousins, yeah, I mean, they have to take that, but I mean, I think that's overpaying. I think they would be overpaying for him.
I think you overpay for any quarterback.
That's-
Realistically.
So the next is the NFC South. Start with the Falcons. I think the Falcons, they are a team that mentioned full rebuild. I think they do want to fully rebuild. And I think that they do. We talked about this a bunch. I think that they do move on from Matt Ryan, and they go younger. And
Are they top 5 in the draft?
Yeah, they're fourth.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
fourth.
so I think they'll address QB in the draft.
I think that they're gonna. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna move on from Matt Ryan. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Ryan's gone. I think that they'll address QB in the draft. I think
They will.
Miami either takes Sewell or Smith, so that means one of the top 3 QBs is there at 4.
I think they will, but I don't think they should. I feel like Ryan still has enough left in him, and Arthur Smith can make a lot work with him. Like, he doesn't work with what we've seen from Arthur Smith, but Arthur Smith has been in the league for 10 years, and he was very patient and worked around Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, whoever the Titans had before Marcus Mariota.
So,
Jake Locker.
I don't know who that is.
He got drafted really high. And then
Okay.
he was another one of those highly touted busts.
Yeah.
They had Vince Young before that. I actually really liked Vince Young. I think Jeff Fisher ruined his career.
Yeah, Jeff Fisher ruined a lot of people's careers from what
I
I've heard.
think that for the Falcons, it makes sense to do exactly what Cody said the Vikings should do. To trade all their older offensive pieces, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, and get younger because they have to rebuild. They have to fully rebuild. I hear they're going to trade some people on defense like Keanu Neal, maybe Deion Jones, some of their defensive players. But they have to – that's a team that needs to fully rebuild that defense and then the offense.
Yeah, and I just think, like, if they're going to go full rebuild, they got to get rid of Ryan just out of respect for him and what he's done for Atlanta as a team. You don't want to put a veteran quarterback through a full rebuild. I mean, that's literally giving him no shot at ever getting a Super Bowl.
Exactly, because he's in his mid-30s already. He won't make it through a full rebuild.
No.
And then
He
anybody
is
want to add anything to
35.
that or no?
What was that?
He's 35.
Yeah, but imagine rebuilds take 3 to 5 years. I mean,
I was just saying his age.
Yeah, he's not going to have time.
Same thing with Julio Jones. Julio Jones is 31. Like,
They both got to go. Like, get the value that you can for them. Probably get a first for Jones and maybe a second or a third for Ryan.
From what we just seen, you might get a first for Ryan.
Maybe. And just let them both go.
I think there's enough like on the edge teams that need a quarterback that if the Falcons are going to move on, they'll end up getting a first for him. It might be a late first from like Indy where it's like 21.
I was thinking Indy. Indy might throw that. Denver really was interested.
I
Denver
think the 49ers could have been on him. I think Kyle Shanahan's kind of like Sean McVay, where you just like.
Oh, and Kyle Shanahan loved Matt Ryan. He was the offense coordinator in Atlanta. He loved him.
Yeah, and he screwed him out of the Super Bowl because he got conservative.
Yeah, he did. He did. The next team in the South is the Panthers. I'm fairly certain they've been in a lot of quarterback talks. They say they're going to aggressively pursue Deshaun Watson. I think that's a team who wants to move on from Bridgewater.
I think if it's not Deshaun Watson, they shouldn't. Teddy Bridgewater is a good gap guy. Like, take Trey Lance in the second, or don't take anyone this year at all. Keep rebuilding. Like, there will be more free agent quarterbacks that'll come. Like, Teddy Bridgewater is serviceable. You're not ready next year. Like, no matter what happens, you could end up being a playoff team, sure, but is that worth taking a quarterback higher than they should? So let's just say, hypothetically, they trade up with Dolphins. I don't think it'll happen. Let's say they do. So they give the Dolphins I think they have the 9th overall pick.
I think it's 8.
So they give them the 8th overall pick, and they give them a second and a 4th later on, or whatever. And they take, say, 1st overall is Trevor Lawrence, 2nd Zach Wilson. Say they take Justin Fields and Trey Lance, one of the more guys they think that they need more help with, and then that guy ends up being a bust. They just redid their entire rebuild because now they gave away 2 extra picks that they didn't need to, moved up, and they got rid of a good bridge quarterback. Where if they kept Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who we know is fine, like he's not bad.
On the other side of that, I don't think that they're far off. I don't think that I think that the rebuild is near complete.
I don't think they'll
That
win.
defense-
I don't think they'll win the division anytime
Well,
soon.
that defense
That's
is
the
way
wild card.
better. Without Drew Brees in New Orleans, they're less scary. The Falcons, like I said, they're totally rebuilding. Tampa Bay, they're going to lose some of their players. I mean, they're over the cap. They gotta cut some guys.
The problem with the
thing
Panthers
about it is-
they're built on the run, and the Tampa Bay Bucks have been the best run defense for the past 3 years.
But the Panthers are closer than people think. They have good receivers. They have good running backs. They have good line play. They have a decent defense. The defense played pretty well. And there's a lot of young guys on that defense. They drafted nothing but defensive players last year. I just think the Panthers are closer than people think. And I think that with better quarterback play, they could have won some more games this year.
They can be closer, but they're not. I don't think they're make it past the wild card round in the playoffs.
Let me ask you, what major holes do you see on that team? Like
Defensive
major-
line, the only real player they had that stepped up was Derek Thomas, their number 4 overall pick. Their secondary, like Jeremy Chin, was basically doing it all for that entire defense. Like I went back and watched some of the games because I think they should have beat us the first time. I think if Christian McCaffrey was healthy, they would have, because we were just playing terribly. We had it meshed well.
You still think they need defensive help, then you said.
Yeah, I still think
I think they need to develop the defensive guys they drafted. I think they got a lot of experience last year, so I don't know. I think it might be a little too early to tell on that. But I do know they need to get
but I
better.
don't think they'll be ready next year. Is more what I was trying to say. So there's no point in going to get Zach Wilson or trying to force this quarterback who's a second round talent.
What about the Deshaun Watson rumors? If that could happen.
I think they'll go for Deshaun Watson because every team would go for Deshaun Watson that doesn't have him, and I think it'll be good for him. Christian McCaffrey, Deshaun Watson, Robert Anderson, DJ Moore would be a scary offense. But what are they giving? It's the same thing with the Dolphins. Like, what are they giving up to get him? If they're giving what the Rams just gave up, I don't think they should do it.
They're giving up more than the Rams.
Yeah. I don't think they should. I think the Rams and Lions both got what they wanted, but I think the Rams overpaid still.
The thing is that Carolina doesn't want Bridgewater for that's what the news out of Carolina is. What do you think, Cody?
So to touch on what he just said about the Rams overpaying, they only overpaid if it doesn't work out. We do the same thing with first round picks. If they don't become stars, they're a bust to the fans. But if they do what they need to do and take the team to the next level, then they're doing their job. But on the flip side, if you're trading up to get a rookie that's unproven, that's a whole nother ballgame. When you trade up to take a proven guy, you know what you're getting. And if you think you're that close, then yeah, you make the trade. But if you don't think you're that close, you don't give up that much.
Yeah, and Matt Rule said they're not that close. Like Matt Rule's interview, he literally said that he still thinks they're a couple years out.
We'll see. Well, I mean, I think they're closer than that, but we'll see. We'll have to see the season.
And that couple years out kind of goes to the development time of the defense that they just drafted.
Yeah, like
They're not going to add more defensive pieces. So, I mean, they could, like veterans, but they just drafted a whole defense. They just got to give them time.
I think that's what they need. I think they just need like a veteran player. I think that would be a good team for JJ Watt to go to, honestly, because JJ Watt helping
Harrison Smith.
or it's his name's not Derek Thomas. Derek Brown, is that his name? The
Yeah.
number 4 overall pick. Like he had bursts of just being like the best player.
Oh, the kid from Auburn, right? The tackle.
Yeah.
Okay.
The number 4 overall pick of last year. So like him with JJ Watt, and then like we just talked about, a good pass rush makes a mediocre secondary look great.
All right. So there's only 2 more teams that might move on. The Bucks aren't going to move on. It's the Saints,
Brady might break a hip.
the Saints, and then I don't think the Cardinals or Seahawks will. The Rams already did. So there's 2 teams to talk about left. We got like 8 minutes. What about the Saints? Fitz there.
I still think Winston. I know that Hill was the one that took over in relief when Breeze got hurt, but I think he proved that he's not going to be your go-to guy. I mean, even when he played against Denver, who didn't have a QB on their active roster, so that was a blowout game, and he still couldn't get a ball into the end zone in the air. Like, he's just not a guy that can beat you in the air with his arm. Winston, granted, he's going to make mistakes, but like we talked about before, and I forget if it was on camera or off, he's had the benefit of learning from Breeze and Peyton. I think that giving him another offseason with Peyton too, he'll be a lot smarter with the ball, and I think he'll have a chance to prove it.
Well,
I
the
don't
Saints
think
are
Winston-
like 100 million over the cap. So how are they going to re-sign him? Because he's a free
Yeah.
agent.
And Winston's not going to want to go back there. They didn't turn to him when Drew Brees got hurt. I don't think he liked that, and I don't think he goes back there.
Yeah, and they already have Taysom Hill signed, and they should at least get a full season out of him to see how he did. He went what 5-2 or wasn't?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so
He didn't do terribly. I don't think Winston goes back there. I do think they bring somebody in. Maybe if Bridgewater fizzles out in Carolina and they move on, they could bring him back. I mean, he wasn't terrible there. He wasn't.
I think if Hill has to start the whole season, I don't think the Saints make the playoffs.
I don't think they make the playoffs without Breeze anyway because they're going to have to get rid of a lot of players. They're
Yeah, Michael
Well,
Thomas.
how much was Breeze's salary? Because his retiring will take some money off the cap.
Well, this was the last year in his contract. He's out.
Yeah, he signed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think Michael Thomas comes back. He doesn't want to be there. It sounds
Although
like.
he missed most of the year anyway, right?
And that's $20 million right there.
Plant boy.
But without Michael Thomas and Drew Brees, what do they have?
Alvin Kamara. They have never made Alvin Kamara 1,000-yard back.
Jared
But,
Cook at tight end.
Yeah, Jared Cook's getting old.
Ryan Ramczyk at tackle.
We're just naming like one-off players, but do they really have an offense? I mean,
You asked who they have. You did not specify do they have an offense. You asked.
that's,
That is true. You just asked for which players are still there.
you're right. You're right. I did not.
Do they still have Murray at running back too? Latavius Murray?
Yeah, they do. So, lastly, the Cardinals are going to stay probably with Murray.
Yeah, I don't see him moving on yet.
The Seahawks are going to stay with Wilson.
Murray covers up a lot of Cliff Kingsbury's problems. Like
I can't.
The Rams already made their move. They've got Stafford. The last team, and we know they're going to move on, is the 49ers. They were in on Stafford. They're in on Watson. They're in on every trade talk for quarterbacks that are out there. They're too far down, I think, to draft one in the first round because the top 4 or 5 will be gone. Realistically, what do you think that they do? Are they going to get one of these trades or?
I could see Cam Newton.
I could see Cam Newton, but what I really want to see is have him sell the farm for Trevor Lawrence because I think that would be Trevor Lawrence's best fit.
What about somebody like Jameis? You don't think Jameis would do well in San Francisco?
Jameis might, yeah, but do they trust Jameis more than they trust Garoppolo? Because that's the big thing is the trust with
and Kyle
Garoppolo.
Shanahan's offense is complicated as hell. Like Jimmy Garoppolo came from the most complicated system in the NFL in the Belichick tree to Kyle Shanahan, which is also super complicated. Like Jameis Winston is going from Bruce Arians, who's like, throw it 50 yards, throw it 50
Slap
yards.
it up there, they'll go get it.
Right.
Somebody will catch it. Doesn't matter what color jersey they're wearing, but somebody will catch it.
Yeah,
Just
he
what
had-
about Matt Ryan? What about Matt Ryan coming to San Francisco? He already knows Kyle Shanahan's offense.
I really like a mobile quarterback with the 49ers. I just think they're so much better with a mobile quarterback in that system. When you get Matt Ryan, you can't do all the things that, you could do if you put in a guy that can move too. Like,
Well, in my opinion, this is the best location for Deshaun Watson to win. For him, his playing style, I think the 49ers fit him best. I don't know if he feels that way because, like I said, he's got the say. But
he doesn't want to go to California. They tax the shit out of there, you breathe.
if I'm Deshaun Watson and I want a team that's a contender and a team that can win with me, the 49ers are the perfect fit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like Watson there too because of the same reasons I mentioned. I just think that offense needs a mobile quarterback. Jameis Winston can move, so he might be okay there. But
And I mean, not to take it down the political avenue, but part of what Watson's point was is he does want a team that's more sensitive to some of the social justice issues that have been addressed out there in San Fran. There was some speculation when Kaepernick was released. Is that still a thing? Like, I don't know the culture in the San Francisco organization, but
I don't think
are
that-
they still like where are they with that?
look, I think Kaepernick was released because he just sucked after a while.
That was-
Well, personally, I think, yeah, that was why. Like, it wasn't a matter of any sort of political or messages he was sending. His numbers were not good.
without
He
getting
was
too
an
much
average
into it,
quarterback, and he wanted $20 million a year. And they said, we can find somebody better for
that
less
was
than
a
$20
Chip
million a
Kelly
year.
thing, and I think Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, I think they changed the culture there. I don't think it's the same culture that.
Like I said, that could be an option then. I mean, Watson would be very good in that offense. He's got
That-
Kittle, he's got running backs, he's got wideouts, he's got a defense, he's got
Yeah, I think
everything he
that
needs to
offense
win.
in the system they run is tailor made for a quarterback like Watson. I think he would be super effective in that system. He's got a strong arm. He's mobile. They do a lot of RPOs. They have a really good strong running game. They have a good offensive line. Good
Right.
tight end play. They have a good defense. It's a perfect team.
Like,
If Watson was there when they played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year, I think they could beat the Chiefs in that game.
oh yeah, I don't think he closes his eyes and chucks up a couple interceptions. So,
No.
like I said that all year or all week leading up to that game. If the Chiefs were going to win, they had to make Garoppolo beat them, because if they let him keep it on the ground, they'd be able to run all over him. But they put the ball in Garoppolo's hands and it cost him.
Yeah. So I think that in San Francisco, Nick Mullins was more successful in that system than Jimmy Garoppolo was, because he was faster, because he could move around. And I think that they have to move on from Garoppolo because he's not the answer. And that system, he doesn't fit that system anymore.
And they're set up where they could make a trade that would hurt most teams in the future. I think they're set up good enough where they can make that trade and not hurt too bad from it.
Yeah, their defense is, when healthy, among the best. Their offense is a quarterback. I think when I think of the Deshaun Watson trade, I think of a team that is a quarterback away from the Super Bowl. And I firmly believe that the 49ers are a quarterback away from a Super Bowl.
So you're not into the Jets.
No. I don't think the Jets are a quarterback away from the Super Bowl. They've got a lot of defensive holes. They've got other offensive holes they have to fill. I think that when I think of the quintessential team away from a Super Bowl, I think of the 49ers. And I think that they would have won a Super Bowl with a better quarterback play. So I kept Watson in the cage for the whole thing because this is the team I think where he should go to.
Oh yeah, I agree with that completely. That's one of the places, but I also think that that's one of the teams that can give up all that to get him.
I agree, and it won't hurt them because they're already there. They're already ready. But this is gonna end in like 30 seconds. So that's it anyway. So we're done with all the teams. That's the last team. So did we get to 18?